Hey everyone, I'm Leviatros, and welcome to my channel. Today I'll be reviewing the highly anticipated Barbie movie. If you haven't seen it yet, don't worry. I'm going to start off talking broadly about the beginning of the movie, and I'm going to make it pretty clear when I start to get into spoilers. I'm pretty strict about what I wouldn't want to know before seeing the movie myself, so I won't mention anything late in the movie or any specifics until after the spoiler warning. Now, going into the movie, I was already a huge Greta Gerwig fan, if you couldn't tell. Her movie Lady Bird really blew me away and has since become my favorite movie of all time. So obviously, I'm going to be excited for any movie she's directing and co-writing with her husband Noah Baumbach, who made A Marriage Story. I wanted to keep my expectations in check because if I saw the movie and it was an 8, but I was expecting a 9, I'd still be a little disappointed. So as I head to the theater, I reminded myself that's a massive IP with a huge budget, so the studio's probably going to play it really safe to make sure that they get all their money back. I also didn't know it was PG-13 until after I saw it, so I was expecting it to be a kids movie where most of the jokes are just aimed at kids and the adults have to just wait for the next one. And while I'm glad I did temper my expectations so I could be even more impressed by the movie, I'm glad that it turned out to not be necessary. I felt like pretty much every joke landed, which is impressive because they're pretty rapid, and none of them felt like they were specifically written for kids. I was actually surprised that a lot of the jokes are pretty meta about Barbie, and later on involve a lot of social commentary about feminism. So if you're an 8-year-old in the theater, I imagine the whole movie would just be going like straight over your head. I was thinking the target audience might be teenagers, but they make jokes about cellulite, so the target audience might actually be women closer to 30. But that's not to say if you don't meet that specific criteria that you're not going to enjoy the movie. The movie's full of lighthearted jokes, but they also include quite a few well-crafted, sincere moments. It's a very difficult balancing act with all of these silly jokes next to sincere moments, but Greta Gerwig's and Noah Baumbach's writing walks this line very well. The serious scenes being sandwiched between silly moments doesn't detract from them. In some scenes, it actually enhances it. Having someone see the current state of feminism in the real world is a bit disheartening, but especially so when they come from the idealistic world of a lone girl's imagination. So to recap before I move into spoiler territory, Barbie's a great lighthearted social satire with strong themes about feminism and what it means to be a woman, as well as what it means to be a person in general. If you haven't seen it yet and were on the fence about it, hopefully these first impressions gave you the right idea of whether you enjoyed it or not, and it's still not too late to go see it and experience it for yourself. That being said, I'm going to start talking about the movie as if you've seen it already, so this is the transition into spoiler territory. Here we go. I wasn't sure if someone makes a live action movie about Barbie, but Greta and Noah did an amazing job with it. A lot of the jokes are about dolls in general, but I'm glad that they had a lot of deep cuts to the history of the Barbie line. I didn't recognize most of the references, and I'm glad I didn't. If they only referenced Barbies that I know, it wouldn't be very deep. They mentioned someone named Skipper twice who got at Barbie Land before and nannied some toddlers, and it didn't mean anything to me, but it made it funnier when during the credits they showed Skipper the nanny Barbie line. Same when Alan's approaching the construction workers and he goes, "I'm Ken's buddy, all his clothes fit me," and then those were the taglines for the actual Alan doll. Making a live action Barbie Land not look ridiculous is a pretty daunting task, but the production of it was great. I was also glad that a trans woman played a Barbie in the movie, so with it being about feminism, it felt more complete and not one that TERFs could take ownership of. The casting was pretty on point across the board, and having Weird Barbie played by Kate McKinnon was pretty apt. She specializes in playing weird characters, and she was given plenty to run with without breaking the tone of the film. Having Barbie and Ken as blank slates coming into the real world set up a lot of funny moments, but also an interesting story of Barbie having to deal with the harsh reality of the world, despite wanting to stay in Barbie land forever and just ignore it. I say blank slate because the scene of Ken seeing patriarchy for the first time was like watching an incel discover Andrew Tate. Sometimes a movie is too over the top that it just makes you lose connection with the characters or any impact that the movie would have, but in the Barbie movie, it actually enhances the film. They pretty quickly point out issues with how the world works, where one scene a character is asking like, does it work like this way or this way? And they're like, yeah. And also just describing it as, think of it as a remote village in Sweden. This makes it so that any issues I found with the movie are pretty easy to ignore without lessening the impact of the emotional scenes. I really appreciated the scene with Barbie at the bus stop, just looking around the world, seeing the range of emotions that people are feeling and the beauty of it, before being in awe of the elderly woman next to her and stating that she's beautiful. When she responds, "I know it," is really funny without doing away with how touching the scene was. Another thing that makes me appreciate Greta Gerwig even more is that she defended that scene when studio execs wanted to cut it. The scene doesn't advance the plot, but Greta Gerwig loved the scene and felt like it was the emotional heart of the movie, so if they cut that, she wouldn't know why she was making this film. While we're talking about the scene, I heard that the elderly woman is played by Barbara Handler, daughter of the creator of Barbie, whom Barbie was named after. I wanted to clarify that's actually Anne Roth. a 91-year-old Oscar-winning costume designer who's still active, having done the costume design for Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, which came out earlier this year, and the costume design in White Noise, the latest film directed by Noah Baumbach. Also, Ruth Handler, the creator of Barbie, doesn't play herself in the movie. She's played by Rhea Perlman, an actress best known for her role in the TV sitcom Cheers. The real Ruth Handler passed away in 2002, but I really appreciate Rhea Perlman's performance in this movie because she has some of the most emotional scenes in the movie, so I'm glad they were delivered with a strong performance. But more about that later. Another area where the absurdity of the movie makes it stronger is in Ken's immediate obsession with patriarchy. It makes sense that someone with a lot of uncertainty in their life would latch on to the reassurance that they're great simply because they're a man, and that's it. But if you tell someone that what they're doing is bad, it's natural to become defensive and dig your heels in, ready to not budge. Ken's idea of patriarchy is so absurd that no one's going to genuinely identify with them and feel like they're being targeted, but they can still recognize glimpses of the actual issue. Ryan Gosling's performance of Ken was great, becoming the villain, but with such enthusiasm for little things like his pride in being asked what time it was, that he's still likable rather than just being written off or thinking that he's beyond redemption. The problem isn't that he's evil, just ignorant. The company Mattel itself plays a larger role in the movie than I was expecting, but I'm glad to see that it didn't insist on it being portrayed as entirely positive. But it's such a caricature of itself, with fully enclosed cubicles that make the FBI's colorful by comparison, a boardroom with 12 men in suits around a heart-shaped table, and a chase scene that feels straight out of Scooby-Doo, the criticism doesn't feel very harsh. The mother-daughter pair becomes a pretty big focus of the movie. I feel like if they focused on the daughter, the movie would feel like they're talking down and oversimplifying the issue. So I think focusing on the mother helps keep the tone of the movie much more mature. I will say though that once they get to Barbie Land, I feel like the daughter didn't have very many lines and it'd be very easy to forget that she was there. Seeing Ken's world of patriarchy was very entertaining though, and Ken's musical number dance battle was an awesome scene, one of my favorite parts of the whole film. When the women are playing to trick all of the men and restore feminism to Barbie Land, part of me was expecting the movie to just kind of end with them beating them, and that's kind of it. I feel like most movies portray the enemy as pretty simple characters that just need to be defeated, and then everything's good now. But with the enemy being men, women can win, but then what do you do tomorrow? You still have to live together, but with the movie being about feminism, I can understand if the Kens lose, and then that's kind of it. I shouldn't have doubted Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach though, because the scene where Ken gets upset because his assumptions about the relationship are wrong, it'd be very easy for Barbie to just move on, and that would be fine. America Ferrera already gave a speech about all the dichotomies women are expected to cover, but also not complain about. So it's clear that Barbie doesn't owe Ken anything, and so her just kind of moving on and not addressing it would be fine. But I think it makes the scene more impactful that Barbie knows she doesn't have to do anything, but still wants to help and make him feel better. This is a moment that would be very easy to show the bad guy getting beaten, cries, and is seen as weak, and then ignored. But for men that currently are used to support the patriarchy, if you just show them get beat and then seen as weak and ignored, you might just further entrench them in their ideas.
But I'm a man.
It's a really good moment where she encourages him to discover who he is as a person because he's not his relationship or his mink jacket, and kind of outlines a path to redemption for him or anyone else that thought the same way. The movie doesn't give you long to recover though, before giving you an even harder hitting emotional scene with Ruth taking a walk with Barbie to tell her about all the struggles and beauty of being a woman, as well as the hard hitting line, we mothers stand still so our daughters can look back to see how far they've come. It would have been very easy to make a generic Barbie movie and still make a massive profit, but I'm glad we got to see Greta Gerwig make a deep social satire using the dreamlike world of Barbie as contrast. Filled with so many jokes and gags, but not missing sincere, hard-hitting emotional moments. I'm predicting that the success of this movie is going to lead to a lot of knockoffs trying to do the same thing, but lacking the vision and perspective that Greta Gerwig gave to the movie, but I'm glad we got to experience this movie for what it is. With that, that's going to wrap up my very first movie review. I love movies and I watch a lot of them, so I've been wanting to do this for a long time, but I always felt like I wanted the first one to be something important, and so with the Barbie movie, I feel content. Thanks for watching, I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next time.